Hello and welcome back to In Service to Transformation with me, Claire Darnell. This week I have a wonderful guest, our first man of the podcast series, somebody called James Hansen, who is a specialist addictions therapist and ADHD life coach. Quite a unique set of skills and somebody I'm really excited to speak to in terms of, his experience and what brought him to being in this realm of, healing, transformation, etc. So, James, it's so good to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you, Claire. It's lovely to join you, and I'm hoping that someone listening is going to going through a process of transformation in their own self.
Lovely, beautiful. Thank you. So, we're going to start at the beginning, right? Which for some is like a, and for others it's a big bang moment. But I know a little bit about your story, but for the sake of the listener, what was it that or when was it that you first thought, something needs to change here? This is not okay. And you started your own journey of healing.
I guess, it was never one of my, it was never at the forefront of my mind to transform into, I guess, that healing process and becoming, the person that I am today and the services that I provide. That was never my intention, right? It's like, hold tight for the ride. It's coming, right? Just trust in the process, right? And I think, as some of my story, it was one of addictions, as a medication. I understand today that was a plaster on, covering up that what was underneath that I didn't know was underneath. I started using substances from 11. I ended up in a rehabilitation centre in Brick Lane, East London, at 20 years old, 8.5 stone with a black bag. My absolute soul destroyed. Again, one don't never intend to, embark on a journey of self-destruction, right? It was just, I was thrown out of the family home at 15, because of some of the behavior that comes along with addictive behavior. At that time, I didn't really understand why I used, why I put that plaster over whatever the wound was or whatever it was I was struggling with. I didn't really give it much time to settle the dust. And, there was a lot that happened, even prior to 11 years old before I started, using substances. There was something quite different about me in certain environments, the way I viewed the world, and my interpretation of how the world viewed me, the stigma that come along with how I struggled, with living in that world with judgment. And very soon, I realized that part of me, I got caught in the people pleasing element of saying yes a lot, so mixing with the wrong crowd at the wrong time, and lo and behold, up down that road, right? And it was a road that part of my brain enjoyed. But, a lot happened in that time. And then when I got to 20 years old in that hostel, there was a moment that I realized, that I had very little. Personal items, they were stuff, they were clothes and things that I'd acquired off of people. It wasn't nothing that I bought myself. And I realized that actually being in that low point of my life, it was just such a dark place to be. And I thought there was no other way out at that time. At the time, I thought I might have a problem with drugs. It still didn't hit me at that time, and I can remember having a breakdown.
Right? For many things, there's a solution. Why would you think
straight in that place of pre-contemplation of sustained talk, where I had that internal dialogue of wanting to keep me stuck in that same behavior. And it was giving me unjustifiable reasons of wanting to do so, even though when I looked in the mirror, you could see there was no soul. And I had a breakdown. At that time, I didn't really have a relationship with my mum, because what fueled the drug use as well, which I realised that I struggled with rejection. And even though I participated in all the behaviour of me being made homeless at 15, I turned that into a resentment at the time, and it refueled me continuing to use. Oh, they don't love me. They want me out of their life, you know, da 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 da. Later on in life, doing a bit of work, suddenly realizing actually they've done the right thing, you know.
Yeah.
And actually, it was the opposite. They actually saved my life, because I could go on self-destruction for a shorter amount of time. Whereas if they kept me in the home, it would have enabled, you know. But so I'd contacted my mum at that time, 20 years old, broke, just had a breakdown. And at that time, my dad had been for a rehabilitation centre in a place called Swindon, Wiltshire. And it was a Sally Army place. I was 20 years old, yeah. And 3 days from having this breakdown with my sister and my mum, and saying, like, you know, I don't know what's going on. Like, you know, at that time I'd experienced bullying for about 2 years towards the end of that. Because, you know, I think quite often what happens is we put these masks on, right? And sometimes we don't realize we're putting these masks on, you know, in certain worlds and certain environments. And, you know, I spent so much time being everything to everyone that I actually forgot my own needs. So I was too busy being you, being them. And, you know, I lost myself in all of that, you know, because I was just trying to, I wanted to be loved. I wanted to be accepted, you know, and I didn't want to be harmed. So I become this chameleon, right? And trying to blend in and using substances. This sounds bonkers, I know, but it actually assisted me to switch characters, you know. But what happened was around 20 years old, these masks started to drop, and people started to see a frightened young lad, behind this. And that was where the bullying started, you know, and you know, the running around like a skivvy, and you know, even though there was still a payoff, let's have it right. But you know, I'd said to my mum when I broke down, I've been bullied, and I think I might have a drug problem. I might. So my mum had said to me, why don't you get yourself in the rehab that your dad went through? Because my dad had never been there for me. My mum and dad split up when I was 4. Never really had a father figure growing up. And then he was volunteering in this rehab in Swindon, Wiltshire, in Highworth. And I ended up 3 days later getting into this rehab, turning up at this rehab, you know, thinking, what the hell am I doing here? 20 years old with a black bag, like, just lost. Now, the thing was, for me to get a bed in that place, my dad had to give up his voluntary. Now, at the time, he was doing really well, and he was engaging in the service in the place. I'd like to think that was his process of amends to me.
Yes.
I mean, I feel it now. You know, he moved out the side, he moved out of the way so I could get a bed. You know, and
wow.
So I was in there 9 months. I was the only person in there that was 20 years old. I spent my 21st birthday in there, and even then, I never knew what pathway was going to be paved out for me for my future. In fact, I honestly didn't believe that I had a bigger problem with drugs than I actually did, because I started to use substances 2 weeks before I left there, because I couldn't envision going out in the real world without using something. I couldn't get it, you know. And then I met a girl who worked in a sweet shop down the road from the rehab, as you do, you know.
Where there's a will, there's a way.
And had 4 kids, married, you know, first 8 years. You know, I ended up getting to a point where I moved out there into a hostel because they wanted to test me. And I was like, well, you know, I'm not using. Are you calling me a liar? All right, I'll go anyway.
Defense is the best form of
So I ended up in this hostel, 16 to 21s. It was absolute madness, right? And I can remember just thinking, you know, like the manifestations, even like I was using, right? I can remember thinking, back here again. Shit, back here again. Right? I need to get out of here because this is madness, isn't it? And I was only in there 3 months. People were in there like 2 years, 3 years, and I got a phone call saying, "Oh, we've got the keys to a flat for you." Now, in this period, I started going to meetings, started to attend mutual aid support groups, right? Like, so AA, NA, or some of these groups. Yeah, 12-step approach. And even then, I was going to these meetings, I was still using, I just thought, there's no way that, they're off everything. We've got to be using something, right? But I noticed there was something in the environment that I could pick up on. There was a sense of like this wonderful spirit.
Yeah.
Like this nice, kind spirit. And I just kept going, and soon enough, I remember sitting on this chair in my flat that I got given and crying. And I was still using and I was still crying. And like just broke, just like, I can't do this no more, but I'm still doing it there in that moment.
Yeah.
And the next day, I just hit my knees. Yeah, hit my knees. And I was just like, I don't know what's there. I don't even care what's there. I weren't ready to call it anything. I just knew something was there. And I said, I don't know what's there, but please I need help. You know what I mean? I need help. And that was the start of the process of the journey, like, into abstinence of drugs and alcohol. And the first 8 years of that process, I worked at a place called Honda in Swindon, in the manufacturing industry. Last 2 years, I was a team leader with 22 associates. Even that on its own was a massive thing for me, you see.
Yeah, being like, employed and being dependable and being productive.
Leading people.
Yeah.
Right? Me, little old me, because I always had this little vision of me that weren't worth nothing, right?
Yes.
And actually that can still tap in. That still comes in today if I'm not careful. And so I worked there and I ended up volunteering in a rehab that I went through.
Yes.
Ended up getting a full-time job there. I was there for 8 years. So at this point, this is around sort of 14 years into my recovery journey. And I had no intention of getting involved in the addiction field, but it was just presented. I was just thought, you know what, I like helping people.
Yes.
I ended up getting a driving license and I started phoning up the rehab, and it was an all-male rehab. And I was like, yeah, I've got room for 5 people. Anyone up for coming to a meeting? And I started to feel, that sense of belong. Yeah.
So you were literally being in service to getting other people to 12-step meetings and transporting them around, and this was something you volunteered to do.
Yeah, that weren't nothing
like carry a message, as we call it in 12 steps.
Yeah.
And so this kind of then positioned you into this new way of, okay, I guess you were asked. I always feel like I get these downloads, right? But you obviously got this calling. This is what you need to do. And you did that. And then that led you into working with the rehab properly.
That's right. Yeah. Wow. That's right. Yeah. So I ended up working there on nights, permanent nights for 8 years. In that 8 years, I thought, what I've been taught is, and one of my key gifts is that I listen, right?
Yeah.
I listen to people that are wise. Obviously with my ADHD, that is somewhat difficult at times, but it's if I connect with someone on an emotional level, I'm more likely to remember it. You see, if I connect to it on there, because ADHD is a neurological disorder, chances are if it's not stimulating for me, I'll forget it. Right, it'll just go straight out of my mind. If it's connected there, I will remember it. And I can remember, like, people saying, less wishbone, more backbone. Yeah, you can talk the talk. How about walking the walk? Right, all the old school. I listen to these wise guys. And one of them said, this is an action thing. You've got to step into the doing. And I was like, okay, yeah, I can do that. And always remain teachable.
Yeah.
And so every course that come there, I was like, yeah, I'll do that. Yeah. Health and social care level 3. Yeah, I'll do that. I left school with nothing, like no GCSEs. I was off my trolley in my GCSEs.
Yeah.
And on report for a number of years. And so I embarked on that journey of education. And then what happened was I ended up getting accepted on a course through the University of Bath.
Yeah.
So I did a 4-year foundation degree in addiction counselling and a 2-year Bachelor of Science Honours degree in addiction counselling.
Wow.
Now,
And that's
towards the end of
huge,
my,
considering you have
that's
your
massive.
ADHD. And did you at that point have the diagnosis of ADHD?
No, no, no.
So
So, and I
you
wondered
yeah,
why it was such a struggle, right? It was
yeah,
just like, why am I not getting this? Like, I'm in the classroom, I want to listen, it's a topic of interest, but it's just not going in. I'm writing all these notes. I ain't got a clue what these notes are,
yeah.
right? But I'm just writing them anyway because I
So
think it's going to help, right?
how did you get through that then? How did you
Oh,
cope?
I guess it was. Almost like growing on my limitations and accepting the fact that I was always going to be submitting essays in the last minute. Yeah, I was always
Yeah.
going to be having avoidance, right? I was always going to be putting things off. I was always going to be jumping from task to task, depending on what that task is. I wouldn't jump from task to task if it was something that was stimulating for my mind and my body. I'd be quite happy to stay focused for long periods. Yeah.
Yeah.
But if it resulted in stuff that required sustained long-term focus, yeah, that's something that I might even put off or start and I'll jump to this. And then I'll be like, oh no, I'll go over here. I have all these plates juggling and none of them are juggling well, like. And so that's pretty much, it's almost like I accepted the fact that within 24 hours or 48 hours, I'm writing a 2,000 to 4,000 to 5,000 word essay. But what happened in that process was when I was at Honda, not in that process, when I was at Honda, I got 4 kids. 4 years into my recovery, my son was born £1.14.
Wow. Yeah.
He weighed £1.14. He was in hospital from May to October. 3 times we got asked to turn the machine off.
Yeah.
I mean, pain like you'd never imagined, but it was through that pain that I become a stronger person. Yeah. Because, you hear the saying, don't you? Don't give up before the miracle happens. The miracle for me is to just hold on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hold on. Right. And allow that process to come through the other end, And that's been an ongoing process. He's 20 years old. Well, actually, he is a she, refers to as she now, right?
Right.
Which is another big thing, right?
Yeah, that's a journey itself, yeah.
But so there was that, and then so transfer. What happened was at 14 years clean and sober in recovery, at the point where I was just coming to the back end of my dissertation and my Bachelor of Science Honours degree, I come up to a unit, comorbidity. And at the time, my son, my daughter, she was diagnosed with ADHD.
Yes.
And I thought, right, what I'm going to do, because I can see a common theme here. I can see that these two coexist. I'm going to educate myself on that module just before my dissertation, comorbidity, addictions and ADHD, because addictions was of an interest to me and because of the field I was in. And I'll study ADHD because I want to see if I can help her too. And then through that process of that education and looking at her and how she viewed the world and how she really struggled.
Yes.
My eyes began to open. And I was like, oh my God. Wow.
Yes.
Now I see. Yeah.
Yes.
And then I embarked on a journey then at my 14 years to get a diagnosis. 14 years in recovery. And I was diagnosed with ADHD at 14 years in.
Yeah.
And I was literally, not long after that, my ex-wife, who was my wife then, at that point, I had a 5-bed house. It's just perfect, right? Just out of the blue, my ex-wife said, I don't love you no more. My feelings for you have changed.
Wow.
And I can remember, it wasn't long after that, I was into a 5,000 word dissertation. And I had my kids on that one particular weekend in the family home on my own. So I had a 5,000 word dissertation to write on that weekend. And I managed to do that, but like oh God, the pain in that was, the divorce, the not being around the kids every day.
Yes.
Took some time, and it was tough. It was tough. I felt like giving up, and even at that point there, I didn't know where my journey was going to be now, being a business owner. I just thought I'm in the addiction field. I want to specialize in addictions as a counselor. as a therapist, and let's see what happens. But once that diagnosis come in, I still at the time didn't realise that actually, because of the coexisting disorders, them two placed me in a position to be able to support others in them two areas. And that was quite a niche, that isn't, as far as I know, is not out there. The package that I offer isn't out there. Not just the ADHD, not just the addictions therapy, but also over 23 years in recovery. In the field of addiction, over 17 years. And
the perspective that you have also as a parent and as an individual who also has that sort of dual diagnosis, if you like, of addiction plus ADHD. And it's so interesting because you've touched on a few pieces there. So, ultimately that pain is our greatest teacher, right? Multiple times you've experienced that pain is a great teacher. And then ultimately you then start touching on, eventually you realize that this teacher of mine is also the medicine, or like the lesson that I can provide for others, so that maybe they don't have to experience as much pain as I've had to transition through. So what a beautiful experience and an awakening,
Oh, it's amazing. It's like, and also like the transformation on the perception of how I was growing up in a society where alcohol was deemed as acceptable, right?
Yes.
Whereas like, just something like, it's quite big but small for other people. It's like going into an environment and it's like that environment is expecting you to drink alcohol, for example.
Yes.
Whereas like now my kids know, they've never seen me drink, right? So they know that we can go out, we can have a bloody good time and a laugh, and it's all right. We don't need nothing. It's that, it's a different paradigm, isn't it? It's a different
Same.
So
recovery kids are blessed, right, in many ways, because they get us at our best, and I feel by proxy they then have this experience of this recovery toolkit. There are many times when my daughter said, do we need to go to a meeting? When she was really small, it'd be like, Mummy, I think you should go to a meeting, and like from the mouths of babes, right? Where you're like, she's probably right. Or, if you were really sorry, you wouldn't keep doing the same thing over and over again. Those ones where they give you a taste of your own medicine, right? So
it's powerful, isn't it? It's powerful
so
to be in the right place at the right time, and not everyone gets it, not everyone gets, to be in this place, position of transformation.
We are the ones, definitely. So in terms of the pathways, I mean, it sounds like a lot of hard work, a lot of tenacity, a lot of self-awareness came into play, some God-given opportunities that allowed you to, embrace them. But it sounds like there's a hell of a lot of determination and hard work on your part, I would say. And being able to see, I guess, the gift in that whole, for me personally, when I'm in a process of change, when it's really painful, I'm like, yum, like what's on the other side of this? This is going to be juicy. I know there's like become this pain, pleasure payoff, right? That plays in. But it takes
I'm not there yet.
Yeah, you are. I know you are.
Hard to see it when you're in it though, isn't it?
It's so hard to see it when you're in it. When you're in it, it's just like, when will it end? Make it stop. This is it. This is like this. I'm never going to get through this. And then we do, right? We do get through it. And we look back and go, oh, that was good. Like I can see how I have changed, grown, or I caught it sooner that time, because we go around in the same insanity cycles, the same loops. Right? But what I notice is it's ever decreasing circles before we catch ourselves and we can rebuild on the back of that.
Yeah, definitely.
So what's lighting you up at the moment in terms of your own journey? Like what's really got your juices going at the moment?
Well, I mean, it's an exciting time actually, again, like when going through the divorce and this and that, I didn't know what I wasn't an ADHD life coach at that time. I wasn't even qualified as an addictions therapist. But once I got qualified, it opened a lot of doors as a therapist, as different roles in different treatment centres. I worked in a lot of different rehabs over the UK, both private and non-private, and grown my knowledge in these different sectors. Worked in the community drug service, worked in a prison for 9 months just before COVID, you know, worked as a senior therapist, worked as program manager. You know, I went back to the rehab that I went through as, and I got a role as program manager. So all this knowledge and experience from these private sectors, I was able to give to a charity, you know, this charity, a similar program, you know, for less price, you know,
Yes.
for people that actually coming off the streets that got in a full treatment, you know. And then I had no plan on moving to Wolverhampton, right? No plan.
So what happened?
And again, you know, just when you're down to nothing, God's always up to something, right?
Yeah.
And if only I knew the plan, I'd change it. That's probably why we don't know the plan. We just got to trust it, right?
Plan.
And obviously met, you know, my wife now. I've been down here just over 5 years.
Yeah.
And again, this was where the process of change come. I still wasn't an ADHD life coach, right? I was an addictions therapist, okay? But then I transferred down here. I ended up getting a role in the prison, and I got a call from a guy through he found me on LinkedIn. I'm on all the social platforms, and he found me on LinkedIn. Phoned me just out of the blue. He said, I'm coming out of rehab, yeah, a treatment centre in London, and I'm wondering if you know anyone that works with addictions, but also ADHD. Because I see you've got a lot of followers on LinkedIn. And I was like, okay, give me a minute. I says, I've only just come out of work. I'll have a look and I'll send you over some details. And of course, got off the phone. And I was like, that Claire, like, who can I recommend? Like, you know,
love it.
Oh, this is what you could do. Yeah.
Yeah.
You are equipped right here, right now to provide what is required.
Yes.
Yeah. I booked a week and a half off work holiday.
Yes.
I've done a risk management plan. I moved in with the guy. Yeah. For a week and a half. I stepped into his world with him. Right.
Yes.
It was amazing. Right. Because all of the tools, all of the knowledge and experience, it all come together.
Yes.
ADHD and addiction. This guy is a business owner. I mean, a massive business owner, very successful, but so chaotic, so complex. Addiction, ADHD, autism, all coexisting together. If you're not managing your ADHD, yeah, if you're not managing your ADHD.
Carry on.
So if you're not managing your ADHD, if you don't know you've got ADHD, you're not going to be managing it very well. Or if you are managing it, if you have been diagnosed and you're still not managing it, you still run the risk of living over in the coexisting disorders, which people don't know what they are. So, and it's not in no particular order. Addiction, which is obsessive, impulsive, compulsive behaviors, and that doesn't just come in substance and alcohol, right?
Yeah,
it doesn't. It can come in a form of a stimulant, porn, masturbation, yeah, sex,
money, business,
gambling, gaming, social media, work, chasing the dollar, right? Buying faster, shinier, all that stuff, right? In performance mode, yeah, in autopilot, just lost over there, right? So that's just the addiction, right? And then you've got depression, then you've got anxiety disorder, then you've got rejection sensitivity dysphoria. Of course, if anyone's experienced any trauma in the past of rejection, that's going to affect anyone, right? But with the ADHD brain, it's like times out by 20, 30, you might be somewhere close as to how that affects someone with ADHD. RSD is massive. You know, it's only just recently been surfaced over the last couple of years. And of course, you've got low self-esteem.
Sensitivity disorder, right?
Yeah. Dysphoria. Rejection sensitivity dysphoria, but and low self-esteem. So you tend to live in them. And this is where people start getting prescribed medication, if they've got undiagnosed ADHD, right? Of course, they're standalone disorders, you know. But if I get a client come to me that's historically using stimulants, it's on my radar, possibility, because as an ADHDer, I lack a chemical called dopamine, right? And I seek outside pleasures, to get that dopamine hit. But what is the dopamine related to? A stimulant. And what is a stimulant related to? The reward system. Right. So That's why we jump from task to task to task to task. If it's not stimulating our brain, we lock off. We'll find something else, right? If it stops having that effect on us, right? I see a lot of people in recovery as well, right? And I'm hoping that listening to this, yeah, people are going to go, oh my God, right?
Yeah.
Now, what it is, what's the difference? What the difference is because a lot of people go, oh yeah, I think I've got ADHD, right? And because everyone gets forgetful, right? Everyone's got a wandering mind. Everyone's like you know, has experiences of anxiety, depression, low self-esteem, RSD, addictions, right? It's the occurrence of these symptoms, how often they happen on a daily basis, how intense, and the regularity of the symptoms occur will determine whether one has got it or not.
Yeah, it's almost like the debilitation that comes as a result, right?
Yeah.
How it impedes your progression towards complete goals, etc. Yeah.
Exactly. So I moved in with this guy and he was in the coexisting disorders. So, but you know what I've done through that process of being with him, because I supported him for about 2 years after that.
Yes.
One-to-ones via Zoom and things like that. But that was the point where I knew that being with this guy was providing me somewhere in the region of 21 to 24 grand a year with that one client.
Yeah.
And right there in that moment, I thought, this is your time. This is your time to place yourself in a position to share your craft, to help people make them transformations. If you're going to do it, it's going to be now. Right? I helped him, and guess what? He was in a position to help me. He says, listen, you've saved my life. You've helped me. He says, I want to help you. He helped me to start and navigate me. And I was in the position to be open enough to accept that help.
Receive that help,
And then that was it. Boom. You know, what, 4 or 5 years later, you know, all these different avenues are, you know, I'm in connections with rehabs, you know. I get a client come to me with addiction problems that's got ADHD and they need a detox. Yeah. Because at that point there, to assist them in the community to come off of whatever it is, like let's say heroin or alcohol, they need an in-house inpatient place where it's safe and you know, their risk of harm towards themselves and their mental health is somewhat reduced by helping them to go to a residential setting. But what I'll do is I'll work with the client and the rehab. Because you get a lot of these promises with a lot of places. Aftercare, we offer aftercare. Oh yeah, what's that? Well, you've got to phone us, or we'll do once a week, or whatever that does. It's not a lot. They do offer some. Now, some places do offer more, but I'll work with them to put a program in together so that when the client comes out, they've got something in place already, you know, structure. Amazing. You know, a morning routine, a nighttime routine, all that sort of stuff.
That real wraparound care, isn't it?
Yeah.
You personally, I imagine that's deeply rewarding, right? Being able to see these individuals come from a place of I don't know how to change to this immense change that you've experienced with your friend and colleague as he is now, right? And these other individuals that you're meeting in these settings. So, wow, what a privilege.
Definitely. I've just finished I mean, I had 6 clients before this day. And one of them just come, because I just written a 12-week Escape the Chaos program, actually, for business owners. Because quite often entrepreneurs, self-employed people have got diagnosed or undiagnosed ADHD and they're struggling, right? Because we don't like being managed by other people either. No. Right? And we struggle with relationships like that, you know, being controlled. But, you know, I finished the client 12 week today, 12 session. And he was just telling me about, strangely, you know, we're joining together on this, you know, he was like this, you know, I'm going to write a testimonial. He said, I can't believe our transforming just 12 weeks is done. Stunning. You know, and it's beautiful, you know, it's beautiful to be a part of that process. And it's not linear either. You know, I happen to be very experienced in a lot of counselling models, that are effective with working with the addicted population. So I entwine that with the ADHD coaching because that addresses the coexisting disorders.
And it allows you to adapt to the individual, right? Because as we discussed before we started recording, there are many ways to skin a cat. There are different routes to healing. There isn't a one size fits all. So like you say, it's not linear. Different people need different things.
Yeah, that's right.
And on that note, so I mean, quickly, because I know you've got clients, right, to see. And
yeah. 3 o'clock, yeah.
Yeah, at 3 o'clock. So there are a couple of pieces that I guess I want to touch on. So in terms of, I'm going to link in the bio to the podcast how people can get in touch with you. So I know you're present on Instagram. You said you have a presence on LinkedIn. I'll make sure that people can connect with you. And are you open to receiving new clients all the time privately and also through the rehab connections? And how can people work with you if they've been listening and they think I might need support from James?
You know, I've got 2 websites. Both of them have got a booking system on. Both of them have got availability, right? You know, I'm working with ADHD here, right? And Claire, if I weren't maneuverable, right? If I, you know, because people got different hours, people got a balanced family life, recovery life, all this sort of stuff. You know, I'm adaptable. There are always appointments on there at the moment. You know, I always offer a half-hour introduction free. So, you know, we need to find out if I'm best suited for you, you know, if I can, you know, give you what you're looking for and ask any questions, you know, and then we plan on that call. If you want to move forward with an assessment, that's the next process. The assessment is like me grabbing someone's brain, chucking it up in the air and pulling it apart, right? You know, because like I love them on a motivational interviewing approach, right? It's not a counselling process. It's not a counselling approach. It's a style of working. And in there, it says about learning to dance with the client.
Yeah.
Beautiful, that, right? So learning to dance with the client in that assessment that allows me to dance the rest of your journey with you by understanding what the dance is happening right now
what's your
and what's
preferred
happening
move?
before.
And you like doing the samba, the rumba, the cha-cha-cha.
And what's the tune being played internally? What's your relationship like with you? What's your relationship like with the world? So that over time we can slowly record over that tape until it plays a different tune. And in order for the different tune is a different dance.
Stunning. Love it. Beautiful. Thank you. There's a couple of things I want to kind of ask in the parting minute. So we have a blend of listeners. Some of them are on a pathway to healing. We've talked about how people can access and, you know, work with you. But is there anything that you would want to provide the listener with if they're embarking on a journey of healing? What would be like a nugget of wisdom you would want to share with individuals who are starting that journey?
I'd say for me, there's a lot of coaches out there, right? There's a lot of people that, you know, there's no actual qualification required. Anyone can call themselves a coach. And I think you've got to be very particular with who you embark on this journey of healing with. Everyone's got different approaches. Some people have not got a set of skills that the other person's got. You know, it's about setting up that intro call, but set it up, right? Don't hold off on it, right? Because there's a part of our brain that wants to keep us in that place of ambivalence, which is sustained talk of telling us and convincing us that we'll do it tomorrow, we'll do it next week. Action. You know, it's making that first move. You're like, how are you going to set yourself free? By setting yourself free.
Yeah, beautiful. I love that. Thank you. Yeah. And then some of our listeners are aspiring to be healers, facilitators, therapists. Anything for those individuals?
Check out your following. Yeah, who you're following, where you're getting your information from. Connect with the people where you know you're going on a journey. Where's the destination? Who's going to assist you in the right way with the right tools to get there? Yeah, connect with them people, because quite often we become our environment. You see, you know, I love the saying, you know, if we're around arseholes for long enough, we become an arsehole, right? I'm a chameleon. I can blend into backgrounds, and I think as personalities, I think as generally as people, if we're not aware, we can do that, and we become the environment, right? So if we're around spiritually minded, driven people, guess what? That's going to pay off, right? That's going to pay off. But I'm not saying, you know, some people, oh yeah, just stick with that. I like a balance, me, right? You know, so connect with the right people, educate yourself. get a niche, right? You need a niche, right? So the niche is what's going to become an attractive, that's your brand. It's going to be an attractive brand to you and what you have to offer individuals in through that process of transformation. I have a niche, and the package that I offer, I can train people up, but unfortunately, it's not going to be me. Like you're not going to be me, right? So people are investing in me as the package, right? That's not, think whether that, people watching think it's an ego thing or whatever. That's cool if that's what you want to think. It's not based around ego. I'm humble in all I do today, right? It's more about knowing your value.
Yes.
Knowing who you are as a person and the tools that you've got and the power that you can carry to help people transform, in that transformation period, that process.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you so much, James. It's been, I wish we didn't have to cut it so short, but at the same time, the work that you do is so important. I'm obviously really happy for you to go support more people. But yeah, I'll make sure that everybody can connect with you. And I just want to say I'm so, so grateful for your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for, setting it up, I appreciate it. It's lovely to connect. And my hope is that someone's listening gets that connection as well.
Awesome. Thanks, James.
Cheers, Claire.
Cheers.
Bye.